Alright everyone, so to do our actual renders, I'm going to show you a few effects we can do that make the images look a lot nicer. So we're going to the photos section first. So this first image I have stored has a realistic filter on it already, but otherwise it will most likely be a custom style. If not, either way, I recommend just clicking on this first style selection and going to realistic. It's our nicest sort of color schemes, and if you're consistent with all of your images, then it comes out a lot nicer. So this gives it sort of a slight color tone difference. It's actually added all of these effects onto it. If you want to have a fiddle with the effects, that's fine. You can see what all of them are doing. If you disable an effect, it'll show you what it looks like without it. And then, yeah, obviously clicking inside the preview window will sort of give us a slightly better idea of what it will actually look like when we render it, but not it's not always exact. When you actually render the image, if I go here, render the current shot, just this image, and I'll just do desktop size, and I'll just save it in a folder called renders. Oops, let me rename that. Renders to there, we'll just call this tester. And it'll only take about 10 seconds at most for a single image. Photos are generally the fastest, and then panoramas, and then your video could take quite a while. So this is that final shot. If I open this image, you can sort of see the details that you want in like the cladding, for example, and obviously to double check that you can see the specific details that you are going for. So sometimes the preview will show you that you will be able to see the cladding, and sometimes the preview, and then you render the photo and you can't actually see it. So it's good to do a couple testers. So I'm just going to get all of these images into a realistic look. That one's good. And this one, so these are just some exterior ones. A couple comments I want to make about your camera angles. For external shots, a focal length less than 22 is not ideal. So I would always say minimum 22. I wouldn't go too much more than 32. It starts to, you'd have to go quite a lot further back, but that is probably a more realistic sort of perspective that we could go for. So I might resave this image at this focal length here by hovering over it and then storing it again. So let's get a quick little preview on that. You can see all that grass we worked with earlier is nice and visible. Alright, so that's the realistic effect on all of them. The main things with those that I want to talk about. So this one also I'm going to change the focal length because it's quite, menacing. Go into 22 roughly, and just give it a bit of a border around it. Alright, so that's saved. I want to change the direction of our sun. So probably the best effect out of all of these, for this shot at least, for any external shot, is the real skies. So going into that, we have an editor here. So for starters, you can select what the actual sky is. So I can move around in this view because I have the camera stored here. So there's not too much trouble if I'm looking up here. So if we select our skies, we've actually got quite a lot of options, as well as sort of weather sort of daytime style things. So you can look at the evening ones, which do get quite a bit darker, so is the morning. Overcast is less harsh with the lighting. Obviously nighttime is quite dark. I'll show you quickly. So that's what our sky would look like. And all my lights in my house come to life, which is great, but it's not actually what I want for an external shot at least. So I'm going to go back to cloudy. Any of these will do, and you might find you want the sun at a certain angle, but there's a cloud in the way. You can change it to a different version. So the next thing I'm going to do is change the heading. So that's our location of our sun. You can go 360 degrees, which is great. So you can spin it around so the sun is facing the front of the house, or the front of the house from the other side. So generally, fully engulfed in sunlight doesn't look great. When you render it out, you kind of lose details in the harsh light. So I generally like to get sort of an angle on that front face, or maybe some trees on it, something that can sort of showcase the cladding a bit better, and any details you might have in your image. So I don't mind that angle there. You can also play around with the brightness and overall brightness, which sort of gives you like a balance between the sky's brightness and the brightness of the sunlight as well. So I might come to this one, for example. This is also a terrible focal length. I just wanted to show you how distorted it looks. But then when you go back, so that you can zoom in more, you can eventually run into trees. So you do have to be a little careful with that. You can move these trees around as well and delete them if you want. But to save the hassle, I might just move my camera slightly. And then don't forget to store it again. So I'm going to move this sky as well, and you can do the same sky location you had for the previous one, or you can change it up a bit. It could just be a different time of day that you're taking the photo, doesn't really matter too much. I usually just go for whatever sunlight makes my current angle look the best. So maybe I want the sun on the other side coming over. Maybe I have too many trees and I need to get rid of some of them. Anything like that. You can fiddle around with it. Don't forget to click in the window to sort of see what it would look like. Yeah, play around. So that's the externals with the real sky. In the interior, the real sky is also important as well, because you get sort of rays shining in. So you might want to make sure that the light is coming in the room at all, because if it wasn't coming in, it just looks a bit dull. We're relying on the artificial light that we have in the room. So again, you can click on it to sort of get an idea of how it looks, and I always think it looks nicer with a bit of light coming in, a bit of natural light shining over the furniture into the room, and then you can have a look at that as well and sort of see how good it looks. With the skies, there are more effects you can add with the sun, sky, and weather. So there are like volumetric sunlight and God rays and stuff. It's probably a bit difficult to get it to look natural and nice. So I think the real skies is probably our favorite for this one. Other effects, if you notice your room is not quite the right lighting, you want it to be brighter, or it's too bright, it could either be your light sources are too bright. So I generally have my lighting at about around this E in the brightness. So that's anywhere between sort of 7 and 12 really. And I usually have two in a bedroom, and obviously more in the living area and less in the bathrooms. But it all just depends on how it's coming out in your photos, and if you find it's just small edits you want to do, there's also the standard sort of image corrections you can do. So you can have a fiddle with them. You can also undo changes so it goes back to the standard realistic, and you can also add more effects. So I'm going to show you our reflection that we plan to get with our bathroom. So this is that ensuite we were working with before. I'm going to set the realistic. So this is what it's looking like. So for example, it might be a bit dark in the shower there. I might go to my shadow effect here. Maybe increase the brightness of my shadows so it's not quite as dark and dingy in the corners. But yeah, things to fiddle around with that, as well as in your color correction. If your lower limit's not quite as low, you can up the brightness, things like that. I just think whatever edits you do, you might want to keep consistent through all of your images. So yeah, in this room, the main effect I want to talk about is our mirror. So we're going to have this reflection effect. If it doesn't come up, you can find it in effects under advanced, and it's this one here. So it says already in use because we already have it there. So clicking on it won't really do much. It'll just bring you to the reflection tab anyway. So in our reflections tab, we're going to add a reflection plane. So we're going to edit. It's going to take us into our model. And so then down here, we're going to click plus to add a plane. And then we can click on any water plane, standard glass or water material to add a reflection plane. So I could choose this glass door panel here. I could choose my countertop here, this wall if I wanted, but because the reflectivity of these walls are not, well, the walls of my house, for example, are not as much as this mirror, it's not really going to be noticeable. So clicking on my mirror, I'm going to place one there. So then everywhere in line with this plane is going to highlight. I'm going to press OK down here, confirm. And now it may not be visible, it all depends on the preview, and that's fine. So my preview quality is low, so it still looks the same, or it's not going to show you a preview. If I go into high, it should show you. And now you can see I have a copy of this whole model has been duplicated into another plane, so that it's definitely an exact mirror. So if I move over here, it's not going to show the camera because the camera doesn't exist. But it is, you can see my doors there, you can see the shower. If I move up, you can see the basin here, which is not sitting perfectly, but that's fine. So that's our mirror coming through now. So then when I do, if I click on this to take me back, if I go render my photo on the big green button, and I'm looking at the current shot, and we go mirror, and we let that render out as well, we can sort of see how well it comes through like that. So that's the main reflection effect that we like to do, and this you only need to do it in the model that has a mirror, in the image that has the mirror. So this image here, we can't see any mirrors that need reflecting, so we're not even going to add a reflection plane in here. Every time you add a reflection plane, you're making a duplicate of the model. So that extends the rendering time generally quite a bit. So if you're in a room that has two planes that are reflective, you can do that, that's fine. It's usually when you get to the videos and you have to do a new reflection plane for every mirror in the house, and there might be several mirrors, that can really slow your video down, which is fine when you render it overnight. That can work as well. So back into that reflection editing. So we made this plane here a reflection plane, and when we did that, we had this blue screen pop up that also selected our shower wall, but not the wall behind it. You can edit that as well. There is a reflection threshold, which is sort of the depth that it allows in with that. So if I increase that and then I go back, it's this whole wall now, because there is a bit of a lip there. So now it's including everything within 4 centimeters of that plane I collected. So the reason that's helpful, maybe not in this case, but if I'm out here and I'm looking at all of these windows, it might be somewhere like maybe on this side, something like this, and I store this image, and then I add my real skies, bring that over. If I get some light onto it, we might start reflecting, and I don't really like the look of this reflection. It would be nice if it could be more accurate, and so that is something you can sorry, you can add a reflection plane to your doors. So I'm going to add a plane, go plus, and click on this door here. And so you can see that did this door, these windows up here, and one door over there as well. So we're going to increase our threshold a little bit. Doesn't really matter too much how much you're doing, but you can go back and check that was the right amount. Yeah, looks good, although these doors are not quite in it. So again, you can edit that. Or you could add a new plane and click on those doors. So this is just the preview of what it's going to show us. So if I go to high in our preview, you can see now we've got the exact reflection of the trees out here. So I'll click and view that in rendered view, and it's very clean, looks very professional. You get some nice shots with any glass surface. I also like to do the splashback in the kitchen sometimes. You can see it is, I've used a brown glass here. You can make that a reflective plane as well in its own image. Maybe this one here. And then yeah, add it there, and you can reflect all your details in here. Another thing with that, if I have, say, this kitchen shot, like this, for example, we'll store that one. You still got slight things sort of not happening correctly. If we look at this sink, it's still sort of reflecting the wrong thing. So from here, it's reflecting the brown from the ground, even though it should only be seeing the white ceiling. So to edit those sort of smaller reflection things, you might notice handles as the wrong colors as well. We can go to our build view, go to utilities, the spanner, and we're going to place a reflection control in this room on the bench top here. We can also move it around if we like, so it's sort of floating. Generally you want it to be where the camera would be, so my camera was around here, and you can see my my kitchen sink over here is no longer doing a brown on the back wall there. It's just reflecting what it should be reflecting. And so that's from this perspective here. And then if we go back into our photo, come here, we can add our reflection on that back wall. Another thing you might have noticed is this this view is not as bright as the bedrooms. My lights in here are not as bright as the bedroom ones, and they're also higher up, so I might have to edit that as well. I could go into my exposure or my color correction or my shadows section and sort of fiddle around with it until it looks nice as well. So my last note, you might have noticed my focal length indoors is a lot smaller than outdoors. I would say I don't like to go less than 16, but even that doesn't look great, so I aim for 18 usually. Smaller rooms, you do like to go out a bit more so you can fit more in, but I don't like the distortion that it makes. I would rather 18 and then take 2 photos, one on either side of the small room. Yeah, something like that, where you can get all the features in it as well. You can see you've got the eye height, which sort of gives you a reminder, especially in, say this room is my laundry, 1.41. I'm sort of standing around door handle length height. That's a bit too low. You know, we want to be a bit higher than that. And you can also check that you are facing horizontally, but you don't have to. Generally, a lot more of the details are lower down, so it's okay to be looking somewhat to the ground to see all of our features that are more important. Now, one thing I wanted to show with the laundry is this this red object here is actually that oven we put in before. So it has gone through the wall, which it always does, which is fine. It's just the shape of our model because we had to make it so big. So I'm going to come over here and we're going to do an effect for that. So back to the build section, I'm going to look down over here. I'm going to go to my indoor models so I can click on this one. So that's this control. I'm actually going to change what layer it's on. So up the top here we've got layer 1, and sometimes you can see all of them up here. So that's all my layers. And so right now I'm just going to move it to a layer that isn't layer 1 and that might not have anything else on it. So usually they might say empty, or they'll just be called layer 3, for example. So I'm going to click on that. So now it's still visible, everything's visible, but when I go to my photo, change position, it's still sticking out there. I'm going to add another effect for objects, and it's layer visibility. And we're just going to uncheck 3, and it's gone. It's not gone from everything, so my kitchen photo here, the oven's still there, that's fine. That's what I want. But in here where I don't want it, it's gone. And that's it's a pretty handy trick. You can also do that in your videos as well. So if I were to record something real quick, I'm going to zoom right in. I'm going to walk through here. So we're going to start in my kitchen. I'm going to come over here. I'm going to walk over here. I'm a bit low, so I'm going to go up a bit. Record that one. And probably go out the door, but that's enough for now. So if we press play, see the oven, still see the oven, but we don't want to see the oven there. So I'm going to pause that, save it. We're going to add the layer visibility effect. To do this, we have to create keyframes. So the first one is going to be when we can't see the oven at all. So here, this will be good. So I'm going to add a keyframe by clicking this corner button here. It's now got this little keyframe icon, and from up to this point, all of them were visible. Now I'm going to click 3 so that now they're not visible. If I press play, it should not be visible from now on. You can then, if you ever zoom around, come back to the kitchen, you can put another keyframe in here and then turn it back on again. And then, yeah, of course, save and go back, and you can add in any reflection effects and advanced animation effects or anything. That's the main sort of, so that's it, not being visible right now, which is not what we wanted. Let's edit that. So if we go here, let's add another one and make it visible, just to make sure we're right. All visible, not visible. Yeah. Sometimes they take a bit of fiddling around with, but yeah, have fun with it. Make it, be creative. Do what you like. Keep it as neat as you can. And yeah, good luck. Feel free to ask me for any questions you have with Lumion, and browse. You can browse through other projects on the website as well and sort of get some ideas. But yeah, that's all for these videos. Thank you.